All right, Saagar, what are you looking at?
Well, one of the most disgusting things about politicians is they talk a big game. They make big promises and they announce policies and even say that they're implementing them. Then they get a press conference, everybody claps, says, job well done. 6 months though, or a year later, when it actually comes time to see what actually happened, the answer is usually nothing. And worse, it's usually worse than useless. No policy area in Washington signifies this more than China, and especially trade with China. Donald Trump was elected with the promise of a trade war on China, and to his credit, he did implement it for a little while. And then in 2020, facing enormous pressure from the business community and his own staff, who never really believed in what he said anyways, he cut a deal with the Chinese to remove tariffs on their economy in exchange for a promise by them to buy $200 billion of American goods over the next 2 years. Most of those goods being soybeans. It was actually a pretty terrible deal. It didn't rectify our trade imbalance with China at all. Didn't reclaim damages from trillions of dollars in IP theft, and it continued to sell out American farmers and workers decimated by China in the 2000s. But Trump was facing re-election, and it was obviously good in the short term for the stock market and sympathetic farmers who he signed it. So he hailed it as a victory, even though any serious person thought it was actually a pretty dumb idea at the time. Within 8 months of implementing that deal, it was obvious that the Chinese were not living up to what they said that they were going to do. In fact, by September of 2020, they had reached only 53% of its promises, and in late October of 2020, Chinese imports of US goods were actually lower than before the trade war. This started in 2018. Now look, to be fair, that was during COVID, but since then, it's been more than a year, and the deal is set to expire tomorrow. Guess what? Yeah, they actually lied as usual, and they didn't do what they said they were going to do. If Trump was as tough as he said he was, he could have easily predicted this, but I digress. Now, tomorrow when the deal expires, China will have fallen short by, listen to this, 17% on its agricultural commitments, 41% on its manufacturing commitments, and 62% on its energy purchasing commitments. It is clear as day that they did not even try. So they, blame the pandemic, they saw our chaos and domestically, they just thought, screw it, we'll just call their bluff. That's now the choice that Joe Biden faces right now. Inside the agreement between the US and China is a dispute clause where the United States can compel China to make additional purchases by applying new tariffs and to raise revenues on the goods that they said they would buy. Now, as you can guess, the US business community, the enemies of actual American workers and farmers, is now raising hell to push exactly this. They're basically telling Biden, look, man, it was just a crazy year. Just give the Chinese a pass. Just ignore it. Literally, their advice is to ignore the terms of the agreement that we signed and move on, because then the Chinese would have to pay higher prices. And right now, all the very highly paid people who watch the space tell the Wall Street Journal, quote, trade analysts say it's unlikely Biden would escalate tensions with China as he seeks to tame inflation and advance his domestic agenda. Look, there's always a reason not to screw with big business, but it is pretty freaking simple. We had a deal and they broke it. It's the latest in every single international trade agreement that Beijing has ever signed. Trump was the first president in modern American history to actually just enforce basic fairness in the trading system. Biden now has a choice. He can return to the pansy footing of the past, and he can let this country get wholesale looted by our business community and the Chinese elites who laugh at us daily in Beijing. Or he can grow a pair and he can actually put tariffs on now. There is always a reason not to stand up and rebuild America. In fact, I see it daily on Twitter when I see so-called economic experts say that the best way to tamp down inflation is reduce tariffs. Yeah, maybe the price will drop tomorrow. What about the next pandemic or global shipping crisis? Should we be just as vulnerable then? That is what they are saying. Make no mistake, American greed is the reason that we are bent over a barrel in the first place. As Ryan Peterson, he's the CEO of Flexport, a supply chain expert, he recently said this in an interview, quote, what's caused all this, the supply chain bottlenecks, is modern finance's obsession with return on equity. To show great ROE, almost every CEO stripped their company of all but bare minimum of assets. Just in time, everything with no excess capacity. No strategic reserves, no cash on balance sheets. We stripped the shock absorbers out of the economy in pursuit of better short-term metrics. Large businesses are supposed to be more stable and resilient than small ones. However, the obsession with ROE means that no company was prepared for the inevitable 100-year storm. When we stripped ourselves of parts, the Chinese were very happy to pick up the scraps. They took our losses for decades in order to build capacity. And now, in a time of crisis, they know they can laugh in our face by signing a fake agreement and probably face no consequences, that the music is not going to stop. But it will stop one day, one way or the other. It can stop when we become a defunct nation, incapable of producing anything in a time of crisis, with a geopolitical adversary that controls the entire global economy, or we can at least take care of ourselves. It's a truly binary choice. Those that are advocating against this sensible choice are the richest, most powerful people in America today. I am under no illusion Biden will do nothing. Nobody except a few nerds like myself will frankly even notice, but the rich people will. And then that'll be it. The status quo almost always will win. But pay attention here at least to the particulars, because one day we will be in a situation probably worse than we are right now, and we will come to understand the consequences of letting us all be sold out to the altar of corporate greed. This is another classic. We signed the deal. They don't live up to the deal. First of all, Trump is to blame.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.